It's our weekly conversation with our TSN hockey insider, Pierre LeBrun. And we begin with the fact that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were reunited, paired together on the top line against the Kraken. We talked about it earlier in the show. We showed you Leon Draisaitl downplaying the move earlier in the show. Pierre, what can you tell us about Kris Knoblauch's decision?
Yeah, I think listen, he's done this numerous times, obviously, since he's been Oilers coach. Ryan Rishaug refers to it as a nuclear option, as you know. But this feels different. Yeah, this feels different because Kris Knoblauch, went to great pains to explain why he was doing this. And it feels like he wants to open the year this way and give it some legs. I mean, listen, we've talked about the pros and cons of going nuclear with these two. I mean, you become top heavy, but at the end of the day, I think there's a couple things that went into this decision. One is that let's just call it for what it is, especially with Zach Hyman out till November. The Oilers are so thin in their top six. Listen, they may get some good stories that develop this year out of the new faces, but they're pretty thin. And I think this is a comfort thing here for the coaching staff to put the two superstars together. The other thing, frankly, is, last year, Connor McDavid got off to, by his standards, a bit of a slow start, by his standards. And I think that with everything surrounding the team and McDavid's future, I think Kris Knoblauch just wants those two big guys to feel good about their game, to get out of the gates in a comfortable way offensively, and to make things very positive around the group to start the year. Remember, the Oilers had slow starts both last year and the year before. So I think all these things went into it. And at the end of the day, 97 and 29 enjoy playing together.
And 97 is part of those four big-name potential unrestricted free agents next July the 1st, along with another 97, Kirill Kaprizov, along with Kyle Connor, and along with Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights. But, Pierre, you've done a little digging on what we might call the next tier of players that are in need of potential contract extensions.
Yeah, I got a piece coming out on these guys in The Athletic on Thursday, Jay, and a little plug there, and it's interesting. Any other year, we'd be talking more about the fact that Adrian Kempe, absolute stud in LA, is entering the final year of his deal, and he's still not signed. Martin Nietzsche's such a big part, obviously, that Mikko Rantanen trade in Colorado now, and he's entering the final year of his deal and hasn't been extended yet. Alex Tuch, two-time 36-goal scorer. How can the Sabres possibly not sign this guy? So there's some other big names. They're just getting completely overshadowed by McDavid and Kaprizov and company. And I'll tell you this, in the conversations I've had with some of the people involved in those negotiations, there's no question that when it comes to the Kempe talks with LA, to the Tuch conversations with Buffalo, that what happens with Eichel and Kaprizov especially has had a bit of a delay impact on those conversations. In other words, I think that everyone involved, both the team and the agent, in terms of LA and Buffalo, would like to see what happens with Eichel in Vegas and Kaprizov in Minnesota as far as the new NHL market. Like, Kaprizov turned down $16 million a year. I mean, it's 2 years ago, I would have said you're out of your mind if you thrown that figure out there, Jay.
Yeah.
But we're into a new landscape financially. And I'll throw this number at you. I think that in the Adrian Kempe conversation, one of the comparables that's been thrown into the conversation is Willie Nylander, $11.5 million. 2 years ago with Kempe, who was making $5.5 million, you're thinking maybe he gets into the 8s or the 9s on his next deal. The cap is going up, man, and it's having a real interesting impact on all these negotiations. I would also say this on Martin Nietzsche's. They've not gotten that far in talks yet there, Jay, is my understanding. And I think some of it is just Nietzsche's. He got traded last year. I think he just wants to start the year, see how things go. I think he's going to sign with the Avalanche. Hockey-wise, such a good fit, playing with Nate McKinnon, etc. But they have not gotten deep in talks yet, probably not as deep as the Avalanche would have liked so far. The Avalanche can't lose him after trading for him in the Rantanen deal. Let's be real.
You also spoke to Team Canada GM Doug Armstrong for The Athletic, and you talked about it as well on Insider Trading on this show yesterday. The goaltending situation, you made a really interesting point in Insider Trading. Sam Montembeault, Jordan Binnington, Adin Hill, the 3 goalies for the 4 nations, those were the 3 goalies invited to the orientation camp. And I think a lot of people thought, well, that's it. I guess those are our 3 goalies for Milan. That's not necessarily the case, is it, Pierre?
No, and listen, I had the same question when I saw the 3 guys invited only to the Olympic orientation camp. And Doug Armstrong could not have been more adamant in our interview this week. That is not the case. I mean, obviously he has a ton of respect for those 3 guys, especially Jordan Binnington, his Blues goalie, who was amazing in winning that championship game for Canada. But the reality is Doug Armstrong refers to the goalie position battle for the Olympic team as the most wide open on the entire team. And the reality is the list is up to 10 deep in terms of the goalies Team Canada starting the year looking at here. You know, guys like Skinner and Kemper, Logan Thompson, the list goes on. There are other guys that are being looked at and that have been told they're being looked at despite not going to the Olympic camp. But Doug Armstrong said, hey, we're not going to bring 10 goalies to an orientation camp. It's not feasible. So we brought the 3 that were at 4 nations. Obviously, we really respect those guys. We like those guys. But the bottom line is it's wide open in goal, you know, between now and the December 31st roster deadline. So pretty fascinating to me.
And then 2 players that I think a lot of Canadians are extremely intrigued by. You spoke to Doug Armstrong about Bedard and Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks and Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks and their chances of making that Olympic team. What did Doug Armstrong have to say to you?
Well, one thing that, you know, that he wanted to stress, I mean, it's not like these 2 kids, because of their pedigree, first overall, were brought to the Olympic camp for show. And the idea, too, that, you know, let's take a look at these guys because they've got a long-term future with Team Canada, that's also not the number one reason. The number one reason, as Armstrong says, is whoever they pick for the 25-man roster is because they feel comfortable they can throw them on the ice in the middle of an Olympic tournament. So if Bedard and Celebrini and or Connor Bedard make the Olympic team, it's not well, we'll get his feet wet for the Olympics after that. No, it's because they think they're playing now in February. And so I think that's an important thing to note. You know, you don't have the luxury anymore with the parity at the top of international hockey. The U.S. is right there. Sweden's a juggernaut. You don't get to say, let's bring a kid just to watch. It doesn't work that way. If Celebrini makes the team or if Connor Bedard makes Team Canada, it's because they're players. By the way, as Doug Armstrong said himself when he talked about Celebrini and how quickly Celebrini is impressing everyone, it reminds him of when Drew Doughty was not even on the radar to start that NHL season 2009-10. And by the February 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, guess who's on the Olympic team but 20-year-old Drew Doughty? And boy, did he play well in that tournament. Again, Doug Armstrong's not saying that's definitely going to happen for Celebrini or Bedard, but he's saying there's a reason they were invited to camp. They are legitimately on the bubble, on the radar for Team Canada. And as he said, to use his words, if either one pops in the opening month or 2, watch out. They might take one of them.
Pierre, all week we have been unveiling TSN's top 50 NHL players list, 10 at a time. And let's take a look at what we unveiled on Wednesday. 30 to 21. The Jets' Kyle Connor at 22. Nick Suzuki at number 25. He's on the list for the first time. Matthew Tkachuk out until December at 21. Now, I want to stress you do not vote on this list, but we know when it comes to Team Canada, there will be some players that were not on the 4 Nations squad that will probably make it to Milan. Do you see the Habs captain, Nick Suzuki, having a shot?
He's certainly in the mix. Like, to me, the 2 names that you really got to think about as far as how they ended last year after not making 4 Nations and their chances to start the year now are Nick Suzuki and Robert Thomas. Those are 2 guys that are being heavily scrutinized and looked at, I believe, by Doug Armstrong and the management team and, of course, head coach John Cooper, who, don't forget, and I told you this last year, Jay, John Cooper has more sway in roster selection than any coach in Canadian history for this. So he's a big part of this, too. But I think Suzuki and Thomas are right there on that bubble. And, the fact that Doug Armstrong says that they'd like to cut down their list to 35 players by when they meet on November 10th in Toronto, the management team for Team Canada, that puts so much onus, if you think about it, on guys like Suzuki and Thomas, to get off to a really strong start in October, November. I mean, you want to be part still of that 35 when you get to November 10th so that you're in the final conversations from November 10th to December 31st. puts a lot of pressure. It's not the kind of pressure you want to add to yourself if you're Suzuki or Thomas, but you better be aware of it. The opening month matters big time. Team Canada is watching.
Pierre, I can't let you go without asking you about Sunday Night Football this week. This is going to be an emotional roller coaster for you. Micah Parsons and the Green Bay Packers return to Jerry World. Micah now is a member of the Green Bay Packers. This is tough, I think, for you and all Cowboys fans. How are you feeling right now? How are you feeling about your Cowboys going into this one? I guess that's our answer. Yeah. Not great. It's a tough one. It's
not good. And CeeDee Lamb out for a number of weeks. Booker's out. Oh my gosh. I just hope they keep it close. I mean, that's how sad it is right now. Just keep it close.
That's it. Just keep it respectable. This guy's always respectable. Pierre LeBrun, every week on the show.